In March 2005, Clint Eastwood walked into a small diner in Monterey, California at 6:47 inches the evening and ordered coffee and a sandwich. What he overheard from the kitchen 7 minutes later and what he did about it became the kind of story that a small coastal town carries quietly for decades, told and retold, as evidence that some people's character runs deeper than their fame. The Bluewater Cafe was not the kind of place that celebrities frequented. It was a working-class diner 2 blocks from the harbor, the kind of establishment that served fishermen before dawn and families after church on Sundays. 42 seats, formica tables, a menu that hadn't changed since 1987. Good food, honest prices, no pretension. Sarah Chen had been waitressing at the Bluewater for 11 months. She was 26 years old. She'd moved to Monterey from San Francisco 18 months earlier after her mother's cancer diagnosis, leaving behind a job she'd loved at a tech startup to be closer to home to help with appointments and treatments and the daily weight of serious illness. The plan had been temporary, 6 months, maybe a year. Just until her mother was stable, just until the treatment worked, just until things got better. But things hadn't gotten better. Her mother had passed away 3 months earlier, in December, and Sarah had stayed in Monterey because she didn't know what else to do. The apartment lease ran through August. She had the waitressing job, she had bills, and she had a grief so heavy that the idea of making any decision larger than what shift to work felt impossible. The Bluewater wasn't a career, it was a place to exist while she figured out what came next. The owner, Rita, was kind. The other waitress, Diane, was patient with Sarah's occasional disappearances into the walk-in freezer when the grief hit too hard during a shift. The regulars were generous with tips and didn't ask too many questions. It was enough, barely, but enough. On that Tuesday evening in March, Sarah was working the dinner shift. 6 tables occupied, nothing unusual. She'd taken orders, delivered food, refilled coffee, moved through the motions with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd learned to function while numb. At 6:47, an older man came in alone, tall, lean, probably in his mid-70s, silver hair, casual clothes, jeans, and a button-down shirt. He took a seat at the counter, which Sarah preferred. Counter customers were easier. No back and forth to the kitchen. Everything within reach. She brought him a menu and water. Coffee, please. She poured it. He ordered without much deliberation. A turkey sandwich, no onions, extra tomato, side of fries, coming right up. She put the order in and moved on to her other tables. The man at the counter sat quietly, reading a newspaper someone had left behind, sipping his coffee. Easy customer, the kind you barely noticed. At 6:54, Sarah was refilling water glasses when she heard Rita's voice from the kitchen, sharp and frustrated. "Sarah, I need you back here." Sarah set down the water pitcher and pushed through the swinging door into the kitchen. Rita was standing at the prep counter, arms crossed, expression serious. "Your rent check bounced," Rita said without preamble. "Landlord called me. Since I co-signed your lease, they contacted me when it didn't clear." Sarah felt the bottom drop out of her stomach. She'd known she was cutting it close. She'd deposited her paycheck Friday, but it had been smaller than expected. She'd picked up fewer shifts than usual because she'd been sick. She'd done the math 3 times and hoped it would clear. It hadn't. "I'm so sorry," Sarah said, the words coming out thick. "I thought I had enough. I'll fix it. I'll get the money. I just need a few days." "Sarah, this is the 3rd time," Rita said, and her voice wasn't angry, Just tired. I can't keep covering for you. I've got my own bills. I know, I'm sorry. Rita softened slightly. Look, I get it. You've had a terrible year. I'm not trying to make it worse. But I need reliability from my staff and from my co-signed tenants. Sarah nodded, trying to keep her composure, but she could feel it cracking. The weight of it, the bounced check, the disappointed look on Rita's face. The fact that she was 26 years old and couldn't manage to keep her checking account balanced and her mother was gone and everything felt impossible. I'll figure it out, Sarah said, her voice breaking. Take a minute, Rita said gently. Compose yourself. Then get back out there. Sarah nodded. She turned toward the walk-in freezer, her usual escape, but Rita shook her head. Not tonight. We're too busy. Splash some water on your face and get back out there. Sarah went to the small bathroom off the kitchen instead. She locked the door, she turned on the faucet to cover the sound, and she cried. Not the quiet, dignified kind of crying, the kind that came from somewhere deep, the kind that had been building for months and had finally found a crack to escape through. She cried for 3 minutes. Then she washed her face, looked at herself in the mirror, red eyes, blotchy skin, the face of someone who was barely holding it together, and made a decision. She'd finish her shift. She'd figure out the rent tomorrow. She'd deal with it all tomorrow. She pushed back through the bathroom door into the kitchen, took a breath, and walked back out to the dining room. The man at the counter was still there. His sandwich sat in front of him, half eaten. He was reading his paper. Sarah grabbed the coffee pot and made her rounds, refilling cups, checking on tables, forcing herself into the rhythm of work. When she returned to the counter, the man looked up from his paper. You all right? He asked quietly. Sarah was caught off guard. She'd thought her composure was holding. Apparently not. I'm fine, she said automatically. Can I get you anything else? I'm good, thank you. He paused. Rough day? Sarah felt the tears threatening again and fought them back. Just one of those days. He nodded, didn't push, returned to his paper. She appreciated that. Most people either pried or pretended not to notice. He'd acknowledged it and let it go. At 7:32, the man finished his sandwich, drank the last of his coffee, and signaled for the check. Sarah brought it over, $12.50. He pulled out his wallet, set a 20 on the counter, and stood. Keep the change, he said. $7.50 tip on a $12.50 check. Generous, especially for a simple sandwich. Thank you, Sarah said, genuinely meaning it. He nodded and walked toward the door. Sarah cleared his plate and pocketed the 20. 5 minutes later, as Sarah was wiping down the counter, the door opened again. The man came back in. Sarah looked up, confused. Did you forget something? Sort of, he said. He walked back to the counter, but he didn't sit down. He stood there, and his expression was serious, but kind. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, he said, but I overheard your conversation in the kitchen about your rent check. Sarah felt her face flush with embarrassment. The walls between the kitchen and dining room were thin, but she hadn't thought anyone could hear. I'm sorry you had to hear that, she said quietly. Don't apologize. I wanted to ask you something. How short are you? Sarah blinked. I'm sorry? For your rent. How much do you need to cover the check that bounced? Sarah stared at him. I can't. That's not your problem. I'm not saying it's my problem. I'm asking how much you need. Sarah didn't know what to say. This man, this stranger, was asking about her rent like it was a normal question. Why? She managed. Because I'd like to help if I can. Sarah shook her head. I can't take money from you. I don't even know you. That's true. But I know what it's like when everything hits at once. I know what it's like to be trying your best and still come up short. And I know that sometimes the difference between making it and not making it is someone deciding to help. Sarah felt tears starting again. It's $340, the check that bounced, but I can't. The man pulled out his wallet again. He counted out bills. 300s, 220s. This should cover it, he said, setting the money on the counter. Sarah looked at the cash like it might disappear if she touched it. I can't take this. You can, and you should. I don't know when I could pay you back. I'm not asking you to pay me back. But listen, he said, his voice gentle but firm. You're working. You're dealing with something hard. You're doing your best. That's enough. Take the money. Pay your rent. One less thing to worry about. Sarah's hands were shaking. Why would you do this? Because I can. Because you need it. Because when I was younger, someone helped me when I needed it, and I've never forgotten that. He pushed the money slightly closer to her. What's your name? Sarah asked. Clint, he said. I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you, Sarah. He gestured to the money. Take it. I mean it. Sarah picked up the bills with trembling hands. Thank you. I don't know what else to say. You don't have to say anything. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. Whatever you're dealing with, it won't always feel this heavy. It will get lighter, not right away, but eventually. And then he left. Sarah stood there holding $340 in cash, watching through the window as the man got into an older pickup truck and drove away. Rita came out from the kitchen. What was that about? He came back, Sarah said, still staring at the money in her hands. He heard us talking about my rent. He just gave me this. Rita looked at the cash. Who was he? He said his name was Clint. One of the regulars sitting 3 stools down looked up. Wait, the guy who just left? Tall, silver hair, drove off in the green pickup? Yeah, Sarah said. That was Clint Eastwood. Sarah's head snapped toward him. What? Clint Eastwood, the actor, director. He's got a place up in Carmel, comes down here sometimes. Sarah looked at the money in her hands, then at Rita, then back at the regular customer. I just took $340 from Clint Eastwood, she said quietly. Looks like, the regular said, amused. Sarah sat down on the stool behind the counter. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Rita put a hand on her shoulder. You okay? I don't know, Sarah said. I think so. I can't believe that just happened. Believe it, Rita said, and deposit that money tomorrow before you talk yourself out of it. Sarah did deposit it. The rent check cleared. The landlord stopped calling Rita. That immediate crisis passed. But something else happened too. The next week, Sarah picked up extra shifts. She started saving, putting money aside deliberately. She couldn't explain exactly why, but the fact that a stranger had helped her made her want to help herself, made her feel like she was worth helping. 2 months later, Sarah enrolled in an online accounting course. She'd always been good with numbers, and she thought maybe she could build something from that. 6 months after that, she got a job doing bookkeeping for 3 small businesses in Monterey. She quit waitressing. She moved to a smaller, cheaper apartment and saved more aggressively. A year after the night at the Bluewater Cafe, Sarah had saved enough to move back to the Bay Area. She got a job at a mid-sized accounting firm. She was good at it. She got promoted. She never forgot what Clint had said. It won't always feel this heavy. It will get lighter. He'd been right. In 2009, 4 years after that night, Sarah was having lunch near her office in San Francisco when she saw a man eating alone 2 tables away. Silver hair, casual clothes, reading a newspaper. She recognized him immediately. She debated for 10 minutes. Then she walked over. "Excuse me," she said. "I don't know if you remember me, but 4 years ago, you helped me at a diner in Monterey, the Bluewater Cafe." Clint looked up from his paper. He studied her face for a moment. "Sarah?" She was shocked. He remembered her name. "Yes." "You doing okay?" he asked. "I'm doing really well, actually, and I wanted to thank you. Um, Not just for the money, though that helped more than you know, but for what you said about things getting lighter. I meant it. I know, and you were right." She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "I know you said not to pay you back, but I wanted to. It's $340, what you gave me." Clint looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "I told you then, and I'll tell you now. I don't want to be paid back. But if you want to do something with that money, give it to someone else who needs it the way you needed it. That's how this works." Sarah stood there holding the envelope. "You really doing okay?" Clint asked. "Yeah, I am. I got a job doing accounting. I'm good at it. I'm stable. Things are better." "Good. That's what matters." "Thank you," Sarah said, "for everything. You did the work. I just helped with one bill." He returned to his paper. The conversation was over. Sarah went back to her table. She still had the envelope in her purse. She thought about what he'd said. Give it to someone else who needs it. 2 weeks later, Sarah saw a young woman at a coffee shop near her office counting change to see if she had enough for a sandwich. Sarah bought the sandwich for her. Then she handed her the rest of the $340 in cash. "Someone helped me once," Sarah told the stunned woman. "Now I'm helping you." Here's what that evening at the Bluewater Cafe teaches us. Clint Eastwood could have finished his sandwich, left his tip, and driven home. He'd overheard a private conversation. He could have pretended he hadn't. That would have been the normal, expected thing to do. But he came back. He came back because he'd heard someone struggling and he had the means to help, and he chose to help. Not for recognition, not for credit, not for a story he could tell, just because it was the right thing to do when you could do it. He gave Sarah Chen $340 and told her things would get lighter. He was right. They did. And when Sarah tried to pay him back 4 years later, he told her to give it to someone else instead, to keep it moving, to remember what it felt like to need help and to give it when she could. That's the lesson. That's what character looks like when nobody's watching. Sarah Chen is still in the Bay Area. She's a senior accountant now. She's financially stable. She's built a good life. And every year, on the anniversary of that night at the Bluewater Cafe, she finds someone who needs help, and she helps them. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes it's just listening. She calls it her Clint Eastwood Day, a day to remember that we're all just trying to make it. And sometimes the difference between making it and not making it is someone choosing to help. If this story moved, you subscribe, hit the like button, and share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness doesn't require a reason beyond the ability to give it. Have you ever received unexpected help when you needed it most? Share your story in the comments.